A reading from the Acts of the Apostles. In those days, King Herod laid hands upon some members of the church to harm them. He had James, the brother of John, killed by the sword. And when he saw that this was pleasing to the Jews, he proceeded to arrest Peter also. It was the feast of unleavened bread. He had him taken into custody and put in prison under the guard of 4 squads of 4 soldiers each. He intended to bring him before the people after Passover. Peter thus was being kept in prison, but prayer by the church was fervently being made to God on his behalf. On the very night before Herod was to bring him to trial, Peter, secured by double chains, was sleeping between 2 soldiers, while outside the door, guards kept watch on the prison. Suddenly the angel of the Lord stood by him, and a light shone in the cell. He tapped Peter on the side and awakened him, saying, "Get up quickly." The chains fell from his wrists. The angel said to him, "Put on your belt and your sandals." He did so. Then he said to him, "Put on your cloak and follow me." So he followed him out, not realizing that what was happening through the angel was real. He thought he was seeing a vision. They passed the first guard, then the second, and came to the iron gate leading out to the city, which opened for them by itself. They emerged and made their way down an alley, and suddenly the angel left him. Then Peter recovered his senses and said, "Now I know for certain that the Lord sent his angel and rescued me from the hand of Herod and from all that the Jewish people had been expecting." The word of the Lord.
Our first reading for this Sunday is taken from the Acts of the Apostles. We are celebrating today the solemnity of the 2 great apostles of the church, Peter and Paul. Let us reflect on the grace of apostleship. The grace. Very often when we look at an apostle, our attention is drawn almost automatically to the work that an apostle does, and rightly so. But I want to lead all of you, as it were, behind the scenes. What enables an apostle to proclaim the Word of God? What enables an apostle to face persecution? What enables an apostle to be an apostle of Jesus Christ? Our response is grace. Without grace, there is no true apostleship. In the first reading, we find the early church experiencing persecution. Herod arrested James, the head of the church in Jerusalem, and had him killed. Look at this. Herod saw how the killing of James pleased the Jews, pleased those who were against the church. And it affirmed him. He did something right, at least in the eyes of the Jews. And so, he chose another victim, Peter. Now, why Peter? Well, it tells us, this choice of Herod tells us that Peter was a recognized leader, if not the leader, of the disciples. And so, if you want to destroy a movement, attack the leader. Simon Peter, the recognized leader of the budding community, recognized not only by the disciples, but also by those who were against the church. When Peter was thrown into prison, we had 2 important interventions. First, the church, the community of disciples, prayed to God for the safety of Peter. At a very early stage of the church, it was the community that supported their pillars of mission and pastoral governance, especially through their prayers. They stormed the heavens on behalf of Peter. That's an important element of the grace of apostleship. The support, the love, the prayer of the community being led by the apostle. And secondly, God's intervention. God sent an angel who liberated Peter from the jail, the cell. And this was happening as though in the midst of sleep or maybe even a mystical experience. When Peter was already let loose and came back to his senses, it was only then that he started realizing God had saved him. It was God, only God, who could have done this. The God who had called him, and the God now who would keep his promise. God will enable a missionary to fulfill his mission by guaranteeing presence and protection. It is good that the first reading presents to us, in a way, the incapacity of an apostle to perform one's mission, in this case, due to imprisonment. So, what makes someone an apostle? What sustains someone in apostleship? The grace of prayer, the prayer of the community, and the abiding presence and protection of God. Let us not forget that. Without the support, the prayerful support of a praying community, and without the providence of God, no one could become an apostle.